Welcome back to Bio World. What happened? Why you are wondering? Oh, by seeing my gloves and mask, isn't it? Wait a minute. I'll be right back after removing it. Even if I wore the mask and gloves, I have washed my hands and face. Do you have the habit of washing your hands, legs and face when you return home? Why we are doing all this? Yes, very good. In order to keep the germs away. Am I right? In a similar way, we are using different methods to defend germs. For example, wearing clothes, slippers, boots, etc. But do we have any natural methods to defend the germs? Yes, very good. We have an inbuilt defense mechanism in order to fight against the germs which are seen around us. So students, today we are beginning our new lesson, chapter 5, Soldiers of Defense. In this chapter, we are going to discuss and study the various methods of defense mechanism in our body and some artificial methods which help to fight against germs and to prevent various diseases. So shall we begin today's class?
Chapter 5 Soldiers of Defense. What do you mean by defense? The ability of body to prevent the entry of pathogens and to destroy those that have already entered the body. So we have a well-defined defense system in which they can prevent the entry of pathogen as well as destroy those pathogens which have already entered the body. So our body is well equipped with a variety of defense mechanism. The defense mechanism includes body covering, secretions, fluids, special mechanisms such as inflammatory response and healing of wound, fever, phagocytosis and blood clotting. So which are the major defense mechanism in our body? The body coverings, various secretions, fluids, special mechanisms like inflammatory response and healing of wound, fever, phagocytosis and blood clotting. Let's see the peculiarity of various coverings and its secretion. Skin, mucous membrane are the major body coverings which provide protection to our body. Apart from these two membranes, various secretions like mucus, saliva, tears, earwax, hydrochloric acid also provide protection against pathogens. Skin. As you know, skin is the largest organ in our body. The skin has many layers. Uppermost layer is known as epidermis. The middle live cells include the dermis and the bottom layer is hypodermis. In the previous chapter also we have discussed about some peculiarities of the skin which include the various types of nerves, receptors, along with that hair follicles, glands like sweat gland, sebaceous gland, then connective tissue and blood vessels are also present in our skin. So how the skin helps in defense? Skin acts as a safety shield that prevents the entry of germs with the help of epidermis, sebaceous gland and sweat gland. Along with these structures, a group of bacteria colonized in the skin also have a key role in defending germs. So, coverings of the body act as a habitat for many useful bacteria. The germs that enter the body need to compete with such useful bacteria for shelter and nutrients. A great number of germs get destroyed in this competition. So, how the skin acts as a powerful defense mechanism with the help of epidermis, sebaceous gland, sweat gland and a group of friendly bacteria inhabiting in the skin. So, these are the major structures which provide protection to skin. Epidermis, a protein called keratin present here prevents the entry of germs. Secondly, a gland called sebaceous gland produces a product called sebum which makes the skin oily and waterproof. And the third one, sweat gland. The disinfectants present in sweat produced by this gland destroy the germs. So, three important structures which have a crucial role in providing the protection are epidermis which contain keratin, secondly sebaceous gland which makes the skin oily and waterproof, and thirdly sweat gland which act as a disinfectant. Moving to mucous membrane. Mucous membrane produce mucus. So, pathogens are trapped in the mucus produced by mucous membrane and later they get destroyed. So, who produce mucus? The cells in the mucous membrane. And what is the role of the mucus? Trapping the pathogen and helps in destruction. So, the destroyed germs are expelled out by the cilia cells of mucous membrane. So, the cells produce mucus and later the trapped germs or the destroyed germs are expelled out by the cilia cells of mucous membrane. Next one, body secretions and defense mechanism. We have a variety of secretions in our body that helps to provide protection from germs. So, this is a simple illustration showing the secretions and the defense mechanism, their role in defense mechanism. For example, earwax produced by the gland in the ear, lysozyme in tears, mucus in the nose, lysozyme in saliva, mucus in trachea, hydrochloric acid in stomach, mucus in the intestine, and finally lysozyme in the urine. So, lysozyme is an enzyme which is present in tears, saliva and in urine. Mucus is present in nose and trachea and intestine. Then hydrochloric acid, as we have studied in our previous year 9th standard, is a powerful acid present in the stomach which kills the germs. Next, body fluids and defense. We have two major body fluids which helps in defense mechanism. They are blood as well as lymph. So, lymph, as you know, it is a fluid formed from blood and returned back to blood itself. And the lymphatic system is there with thymus and spleen as an assistant which helps in the circulation of lymph in and around the body so that it provides extra protection from germs. So, the body fluids which play a key role in defense mechanism are blood and lymph. Next one, blood cells. Blood cells are of different types: red blood cells, white blood cells and platelets. But These white blood cells play an important role in maintaining the defense mechanism in our body. There are different types of white blood cells. They are neutrophil, basophil, eosinophil, monocyte and lymphocyte. Let's have a look on the function of each type of WBC. Neutrophil, here you can see the picture also, having lobed nucleus. This dark shaded portion is the purple colored portion is the nucleus. So it have an appearance of multi-lobed nucleus. And what is the function? Engulfs bacteria, synthesizes chemicals that destroy bacteria. So two major function, they engulf. Engulf means swallow the bacteria as a whole, and in addition to that they produce certain chemicals that destroy bacteria. Second one is basophil. Basophil has two lobed nucleus, two bulb like nucleus. It stimulates other WBC cells and also helps in dilation of blood vessels. Next one, eosinophil. Eosinophil is having an headphones like shaped nucleus, and they synthesize chemicals that destroy foreign bodies, synthesizes chemicals required for inflammatory response. Next one is monocyte. Monocyte is considered as the largest WBC with almost a bean shaped nucleus. The major role is to engulf and destroy germs. And finally, lymphocyte, which is the smallest WBC. However, they are small in size, they are very powerful in its function. So, smallest WBC is the lymphocyte. They identify and destroy the germs specifically. So, all the other WBC, their mode of function or action is non-specific, whereas the lymphocyte is very specific in its action. So, which are the different types of WBC that have key role in defense mechanism? Neutrophil, basophil, eosinophil, monocyte and lymphocyte. Next one is inflammatory response. So, now we are moving to certain mechanism, defense mechanism which help our body from the attack of germs. So, first of all, inflammatory responses. Inflammatory responses. Haven't you noticed that when a wound occurs, that part swells up? This is called inflammatory response. It is a type of defense mechanism. It occurs near the blood vessels of injured part. Neutrophils and monocytes play a crucial role in inflammatory responses. This is a simple illustration showing the inflammatory responses. In the first figure, you can see that germs enter through wounds. So, first of all, germs will enter through the wound. As a result, certain chemicals are produced. These chemicals cause stimulation so that the blood capillaries dilate. As a result, WBC reach the wound site through the walls of capillary. So, when the blood vessels dilate, what happens? Through the small gap, these WBC get diffused out. Which WBC? Mainly the neutrophil and monocyte, and they engulf and destroy germs. So, that's why the wound is accompanied with inflammatory response. That part is usually reddish in color because of more blood circulation, and they having a little more higher temperature than the other part of the body. Now let's recall the process of inflammatory response. When a wound occurs, the cells get damaged. So the cells that get damaged by a wound or by an infection produce certain chemical substances. So the pathogens or the germs that have already entered through the wound cause the infection. These substances dilate the capillaries, thereby increasing the blood flow. So dilation of blood vessels is due to the chemical substance which is stimulated by the entrance of the pathogens. As a result, WBC, white blood cells in the blood vessels, diffuse out of the vessel in order to destroy and attack the pathogens. Here you can see the WBCs are diffusing out of the blood vessels and attacking the pathogens. So blood plasma and more WBC reach the wound site and diffuse and attack the pathogens. This is the reason for swelling of wound site, and once they finish, the blood vessels return to its original position, and this type of mechanism is known as inflammatory response. Next one is phagocytosis. Phagocytosis is an act of engulfing the germs. It is a process of engulfing and destroying the germs. The cells that are engaged in this process are called phagocytes. Phago means to engulf and cyte means to cell. The WBC, namely monocyte and neutrophils, are phagocytes. So this is a simple illustration flowchart showing the process of phagocytosis. The pathogen, when they come near the monocyte or neutrophil, they engulf the pathogen in the membrane sac. The lysosome combines with membrane sac and pathogens are destroyed by enzymes in the lysosome. So in this way the pathogen get destroyed and it is expelled out. Now let's recall the process of phagocytosis. When a pathogen comes near the WBC, especially the monocyte or the neutrophil, they produce certain structures so that they can engulf the pathogen in the membrane sac. So here you can see they are engulfing the pathogen with the help of a membrane sac. Once they get inside the WBC, with the help of lysosome, lysosome is a cell organelle which contain powerful enzyme. With the help of lysosome, these pathogens get degenerated and destroyed. So the enzymes present in the lysosome destroy the pathogens. As a result, the waste materials are thrown out. So this is the diagrammatic representation. You can see the pathogen coming near the neutrophil or monocyte. After that, they engulf the pathogen in the membrane sac, just like the nutrition in amoebas. There the pseudopodia helps. Here also the cytoplasmic extension act as a membrane sac so that the pathogen get inside the cell. Then with the help of lysosome, a cell organelle, they have powerful enzymes which combine with this pathogen, and pathogens are degenerated and destroyed by the enzymes, and finally they are expelled out. So this process is known as phagocytosis, and the type of cell is known as phagocytes. So the name of the cell is phagocytes and the process is known as phagocytosis. Next defense mechanism is blood clotting. So let's see how the blood clots. When a wound occurs, it is exposed to air. the blood vessel get exposed to air. As a result, the platelets get degenerated. The platelets get degenerated. It helps in the formation of an enzyme called thromboplastin. This thromboplastin convert prothrombin to thrombin with the help of calcium and vitamin K. Prothrombin get converted into thrombin with the help of calcium and vitamin K. And what is the role of thrombin? Thrombin helps in conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin. Fibrin is acting as a fiber-like structure or network which traps the RBC and platelets to form the clot. So I repeat, when an wound occurs, the platelets get degenerated. As a result, an enzyme called thromboplastin forms. This thromboplastin converts prothrombin to thrombin. Who catalyzes the reaction? Calcium and vitamin K. This thrombin helps in conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin, and fibrin traps RBC and platelets to form the clot. So this is the simple equation. Tissues and platelets at the site of wound degenerate to form enzyme called thromboplastin. Prothrombin in the plasma get converted into thrombin with the help of calcium and vitamin K, and here the enzyme is thromboplastin. And when this enzyme form? When the wound occurs. And what is the role of thrombin? Helps in conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin fibers. The red blood cells and the platelets get entangled in the network of fibrin fibers to form the blood clot. So dear children, which are the substances already present in the blood? They are prothrombin and fibrinogen, which are formed as a result, newly formed as a result of wound occurrence. They are thromboplastin, thrombin and fibrin fibers. The rupture of blood vessels cause bleeding. As a result, through the crevices of the ruptured blood vessels, the blood oozes out. At that time, platelets in the damaged area get stimulated and they produce an enzyme called thromboplastin. So here you can see platelets are producing an enzyme called thromboplastin. This thromboplastin, with the help of calcium ions and vitamin K, convert prothrombin in plasma to thrombin. This thrombin converts fibrinogen to fibrin fibers. Fibrin is insoluble, so they form a network and trap the blood cells, especially RBC and platelets. So fibrin act as a network and plug the wound. So the red blood cells and platelets get entangled in the network of fibrin fibers to form the blood clot. So in this way, the blood clotting mechanism act as a defense mechanism. The last defense mechanism we are going to discuss is fever. As you know, the normal temperature of the body is 37 degrees Celsius, that is around 98.6 degree Fahrenheit. Fever is a condition when the body temperature rises above the normal level. So is it a disease or a symptom? Yes, very good. Definitely it is a symptom showing the entry of pathogens in our body or the attack of pathogens to a particular organ or a system. So as soon as the pathogen enter the body, the toxins produced by this pathogen stimulate WBC. So as you know, the toxins are the substances produced by the pathogen. So as a result of accumulation of these toxins, the WBC gets stimulated and they produce a chemical substance which causes the rise in body temperature. The rise in body temperature reduces the rate of multiplication of pathogen and it increases the effect of phagocytosis. So this defense mechanism is known as fever.
So I hope you have understood the various defense mechanisms in our body which help to prevent various diseases. So here I am winding up. Thank you.